everyone, and thank you so much for being here. It is already this time of the month. It's almost the end of April, and so it's time that I share all of the books that I read in the month of April. This month really did fly by. I feel like I was just filming my March wrap up, and I was also really busy this month. I had a lot on the weekends, so unfortunately I didn't have as much reading time as I would have liked, and I have finished 6 books this month, which isn't amazing. It's fine. I'm happy with that, but it's a little bit less than what I would normally read in a month. I had a pretty good range of genres. I read 2 fantasies, 3 romances, and 1 non-fiction. And my star rating across the month was pretty high. I only had 1 3-star read and 4 4-star reads and 1 5-star. I only had 1 like all-time favorite, but that's pretty good. Normally I would have more 3 stars than that. To have 4 4-star reads is pretty decent. And I'm also currently in the middle of 3 books right now. I've only got 2 days left of April, and today I don't think I'm going to get much reading done, and then tomorrow I have plans after work, so I doubt that I'm going to finish these 3 books. I'll talk more about them at the end of the video, but I do think 6 is going to be the number that I've landed on at the end of this month, which is fine. But the first book that I read this month, right at the start, was Believe Me by Tahereh Mafi, and this was the final book in the Shadow Me series, and I'm so glad that I'm finished with this world finally. I'm so sick of looking at these covers, these dumb covers with the eyes. Especially this one, like, what is that? What is with the sparkly? Anyway, yeah, I have enjoyed getting, I have kind of enjoyed getting through this series. There are some books that I liked, some books that I didn't like as much, and this one I felt like was an okay time, but in the end I just feel like it could have been an extended epilogue. It was only like just over 100 pages, but even then I feel like it was too long. So essentially this one is an extended epilogue. We follow the events of the final novel in the series where they wrap up the plot, and that ending was a little bit rushed, so they did kind of need to have a more of a happy ending, which happens in this one. But it could have just been an epilogue that happened at the end of that book. I don't think it needed to be a whole 100-page separate book. I do appreciate that we got to see Juliet and Warner's happy ending, and there's a cute wedding scene, and we get to see how the cast of characters in this book are now going to be rebuilding the world after the events that have happened in the previous books. And it is interesting to see a little bit of a taste of what their life is going to be like moving forward, now that they've essentially saved the world and everything that was evil in the previous books has kind of been settled, if that makes sense. So I rated this one 4 stars just because it was short and sweet, pretty cute. And my thoughts on the Shadow Me series in general, I don't know if I would recommend the series. It's just so long and such a big investment for what in the end I don't think was worth it. I did really love the initial trilogy, the first 3 books that the author released that was a completed trilogy. It definitely had its flaws, and there were some cringy moments, but overall I found that one really entertaining. Well, those 3 really entertaining. But then she decided to come back years later and write this whole other trilogy, and plus the novellas and everything, and it just ended up becoming really convoluted, and she did all these things that I really disliked. Like, she added memory loss. I don't want to give anything away on the plot, but she adds like this memory loss plot line, which kind of takes away everything that we learnt about the characters in the initial trilogy, and they started to change in this, and I don't know, and a few other things that she did that I just didn't love. And the whole point of view of Juliet in that final novel, in Imagine Me, I think it was called. Yeah, in Imagine Me, Again, I don't want to give it away, but if you've read it, you know how strange that point of view was. And it was kind of interesting, but I don't know. I felt like she was just making stuff up for the sake of it, and none of it really followed the initial plot that she had set out in the initial trilogy. If you're not interested in reading that entire series, but you want to know what happens in a very entertaining way, I would recommend watching Emmy Reid's video. I'll try and link it in the description, but I watched that just the other day after finishing the entire series, and it is so funny, and I feel like all of her reactions to the different dumb things that happen across the series were it was exactly what I was thinking at the times. So yeah, definitely watch that. It was, yeah, very funny. But yeah, I'm just glad to be finally done with this, and hopefully I never have to talk about Shatter Me again, because I finished the series, finally. It's only taken about 3 years. So that was Believe Me. The second book that I finished this month was Heated Rivalry by Reid, and I rated that one 4 stars as well, but 4 stars, I did love this one. I don't have the book with me because when I read it, I borrowed it from my friend, so I've given it back to her. But I'm so glad that I did, because if you don't know, Heated Rivalry is actually the second book in the Game Changers series, but I decided to start with this one because my friend a few people in my life have been trying to get me to watch the Heated Rivalry series for so long, and I tried to watch the first episode. Well, I did watch the first episode, and it just didn't reel me in as much as I thought it would, and I just thought it wasn't for me, so I never continued. And one of my friends from work was getting frustrated because she knew that I was gonna love it, and she was like, just watch it, and she knows how much I love reading. So when I wouldn't watch the show, she just bought the book and lent it to me, and she was like, just read it. And so I read it, and she was right. As soon as I finished it, I was like, I need to watch it. So I've watched the series now, and I am obsessed. I loved it, and I'm really excited to get into the second book. Actually, I want to read all of the books in the series. And especially because one of my favorite episodes was the one about the first book in the series, which is about Kip and Hunter. I loved their show, so I'm kind of excited to go back and read the first book. But if you don't know, Heated Rivalry, we follow Shane and Ilya, and they're both hockey players who meet when they're rookies, just getting into the NHL, and immediately there's this like rivalry that the media portrays about them, and that everyone knows that they kind of hate each other, but at the same time they are secretly meeting whenever they have games in the same place and hooking up, and their relationship spans across like 10 years, and they slowly go from this like no strings hooking up to, you start to see in both of their point of views the feelings that they're getting for each other and how much they care about each other, and that obviously turns into love over the course of 10 years. And it's really sweet. I loved both Shane and Ilya. Shane is half, I think, Chinese, half Asian, and he lives in Canada, so he's like known as the league's golden boy, kind of. He's kind of portrayed as that, the perfect hockey player that everyone loves. And Ilya is from Russia, and he's more like the league's bad boy, I guess. He gets into fights and things on the ice. I really loved the writing style. It's very addictive, easy to read. There was a lot of smut, but obviously you know that going into it, so I was just kind of skimming a lot of those chapters. And also, after reading the books and then going back and watching, the actors for Shane and Ilya, freaking perfect. I love both of them, and I get why the show is just so popular. They're just both stars, and I feel like those two actors who were kind of unknown before this are gonna go places because they're just both so talented. I did get a little bit frustrated with the book for the first 40%, I think, around the first half, mainly because I didn't love Ilya at that point, and where I would say this book is mainly in Shane's point of view. You get some of Ilya's point of view, but it seems to be the majority Shane. And I just feel like I cared so much about Shane, and then I felt like Ilya was kind of mistreating Shane a little bit. But then we reached the halfway point and beyond, and all of this jealousy and this drama starts to happen, and yeah, that's where it really got interesting for me, and I got really invested. And then you start to see how much each of them cares for each other, and Ilya is a huge softie on the inside, and you can really tell how much he cares about Shane. He just had to get there. He had to open up slowly. Oh, and the ending was so cute. The whole cabin scene and the episode with the cabin I loved. Especially just Ilya, because across the book we see Ilya's family, how horrible they are to him, his dad especially, and his complex feelings with his dad passing away, and yeah, how his brother treats him, and it's just horrible. And he's obviously living in America, far away from them, but he wouldn't really be welcome back anyway. And so yeah, just the really sweet things at the end, and then Shane's family opening their arms to him. It was just very, very cute. I did love that. And like I said, I'm excited to keep going with this series. I think I might start by going backwards and reading Hunter and Kip's book, and then I'll continue on with the third book in the series after that. But that was Heated Rivalry, and I rated that 4 stars. And then right after Heated Rivalry, I listened to the audiobook of Next of Kin by Hannah Bonam-Young. And this one I rated 3 stars. I did like it. I especially liked the first 30-40%. It did go a little bit downhill after that, but I really liked her writing. And this book is one of her earlier published books, so I am curious to keep going with her backlist and see if I like any of the others. I already have the next book in this series, which is called Next to You, saved on my Libby, so I'll probably listen to that audiobook very soon. The plot of this one, we follow Chloe, who she, as a young child, was adopted by kind of a wealthy family because her mum is an alcoholic, and she kind of got moved between living with her mum to foster parent, back to her mum to foster parent, that kind of thing, while she was a kid, until eventually she was adopted. And now she's just finished college. Her roommates have both moved away for work, and she's just feeling a bit lonely. The way that she grew up and just her personality means that she struggles with connecting with people. She struggles with making friends and also with dating. And then right at the start of the book, she gets a call from the hospital, and she finds out that her mum is pregnant again, or has just had a baby. So she rushes to the hospital, and this baby's on life support because obviously her mum's still an alcoholic. And yeah, Chloe's just immediately worried for this baby, hoping that it will be able to be healthy, and she wants to start trying to figure out next of kin adoptions so that she can take care of the baby, because her mum is just not the right person for it. She wants to give it a better life than what she had. But with her situation, she doesn't have a full-time job. She's just out of college, and she did like a creative degree, so she has some freelance work every now and then, but she also wouldn't have time for a full-time job if she suddenly becomes a full-time carer of this baby. So she's struggling to get approved for adoption. But I don't know if this thing is a real program, but she essentially enters into a next of kin program where if she works together with another struggling parent, they will be allowed to both adopt. And the person on the other side of this is Warren, and he has been trying to adopt his teenage brother, but he does have a full-time job and he's got a solid income, but they've been struggling to find a place to rent in the city that they live in. So with this program, Chloe and Warren and their 2 siblings essentially move in together because Chloe's got a 2-bedroom apartment since her roommates moved out, and they have to figure out living together. And it's especially challenging because Chloe is trying to work out how to raise a baby, how to raise a child as this young woman who has suddenly become a mum, basically. I really liked Chloe. She was a bit of a serious character at times, but also very sweet, a loving person. It was her relationship with Willow, her little baby sister, was so sweet. That was definitely the highlight of the book for me. I didn't love Warren. He was okay. He's obviously, same as Chloe, come from a difficult upbringing, and at the start he's very standoffish, which is to be expected. He doesn't really want anything to do with Chloe. He doesn't want them to help each other out. He just wants them to live their lives, and then as soon as he can find his own place to live, they'll separate. But it was very sweet seeing how that very quickly changed, and he started to care about both Willow and Chloe, and they started to come together as kind of a family unit. He started helping Chloe out with the baby, and he'd lend his car to her to use. He started tweaking the car in little ways, like he'd add a little mirror so that she could see into the baby seat. Little things like he would hold Willow when Chloe just needs to take a shower or just needs a sleep. Yeah, so that was the first like 40%, and I was appreciating their little friendship that they had. But then it all of a sudden got very insta-lovey. Well, obviously you can't call it insta-love because it did take like 40% of the book for them to get there. But once they kind of finally started to become friends, it moved very quickly into relationship territory. And then they were all of a sudden telling each other that they love each other and they were each other's whole lives, and it just moved so quickly from there. And something about Warren just felt a little bit toxic to me. I think I spoke about this in a reading vlog when I was reading this one, but he goes from this like standoffish guy who was a bit rude, and you know, you get why he was like that, but he wasn't very nice. And then all of a sudden he flips it up, and he's like, it almost felt a little bit love bomby at times, like how intense he was in his love for her so quickly. And that's nice, I guess, but yeah, it all just happened so quickly, and I felt like it was a little bit toxic. And then like towards the end, something goes wrong, and his reaction to that thing is really extreme, and he becomes really angry and a little bit violent as well. He like punches a wall, and then obviously that got resolved, but I don't know. I felt like she was this kind of innocent young girl who hadn't had much experience with relationships or even friendships, and it kind of felt like he was taking advantage of her a bit, which I didn't love. But that's just my opinion. I don't know. I feel like I didn't see much of that in the Goodreads reviews, so I might have been looking into that a little bit too much, but I just didn't love it. And the ending was very cute. I did like that, and we do meet the two people who are the couple in the next book, Next to You, and I liked both of those characters. So I'm excited to see where that one goes and how, because they're both friends of Chloe and Warren. The guy is Warren's friend and the girl is Chloe's friend. It was one of her roommates that moved away. She eventually moves back towards the end of the book, and their friendship's very nice. So yeah, I'd be interested in reading that one, and I definitely wouldn't give up on the author because I liked her writing, and I'd be interested to see what else she has in her backlist. But that was Next of Kin, and I rated that 3 stars. And then after that one, I read The Right Move by Liz Tomforde, and I was so excited for this one. I don't want to say that it was a disappointment, but I think the hype was so high for this one that I had such high hopes, and the book couldn't entirely reach that. But I still had a good time with this. I actually listened to the audiobook and I did like it. This is the second book in a series. The first one is Mile High, and in that one we follow Stevie and Xander's. In this one we follow Stevie's best friend and her brother. So we got best friend's brother, and it also has the fake dating trope as well as like the living together, close proximity trope. So it had a lot of things going for it that I thought I would love, and I did really enjoy it. So I spoke about this one a lot in that same reading vlog, so if you want my in detail thoughts, go watch that. But essentially, we follow Ryan and Indy. Indy is a flight attendant for the hockey team, same as Stevie was at the start of Mile High. And at the end of that last book, we found out that Indy's boyfriend had cheated on her. So she is looking for a place to live, and she's also going through some, I don't know if it's a spoiler, so I'll just say some personal issues, which means that she is really trying to save money at the moment. So because of that, her best friend Stevie goes to her brother Ryan, and Ryan is a basketball player. He's like the captain of the Chicago team, and he has a spare room because Stevie moved out at the end of the last book to move in with Sanders. And so she convinces him to let Indy move in with him just temporarily while she's trying to figure her life out and save some money. And so yeah, they move in together and we go from there. As soon as they move in together, we can kind of see that they are very different people. Ryan is a neat freak. He can be a little bit robotic in his personality, and just he's very serious. And Indy is very colourful, she's messy, she immediately starts leaving her clothes everywhere and like changing the apartment to make it more colourful. And she's also this like confident, beautiful person that everyone she meets loved. I really liked being in her point of view. But it's interesting to see how different they are, but how well it works. Like from the start, they just kind of get along really well, which is nice. But yeah, another major plot point is that right as Indy is starting to move in, Ryan is having this issue where the like general manager of his basketball team isn't respecting him. So he's basically noticing that the teammates aren't warming to Ryan, and the reason for that is because he is just being a bit robotic and he's not showing them his soft side, basically. And he's also seeing the way that one of his teammates, Ethan, gets along with the manager. He has a wife and kids, and all four of them, the manager's wife and his wife, they all go out together all the time and they hang out. And so Ryan comes up with this idea that he'll have Indy pretend to be his fake girlfriend, and this will hopefully show the manager his soft side. Well, at the same time, this is helping Indy because she has a wedding coming up for one of her best friends, and the ex that cheated on her is going to be there. So it'll be a plus for her as well to have Ryan there, a pro basketball star, as her date. And I loved the whole fake dating thing. The tension between the two of them was perfect through the first like 70%. I was obsessed. I loved both of them, and I loved their character development, and I loved seeing Indy's insecure side, I guess. Like she was a very confident character, but being in her point of view, we could see her insecurities and the things that she was going through. And there were just some perfect scenes in here of jealousy, like the kind of revenge scene that we had with her ex-boyfriend, who apparently is a huge fan of Ryan's. And I don't want to give anything away, but there was just this amazing scene, which I loved. But I think my main problem with it was just that it was too long. It's over 500 pages, or about 500. Yeah, it's about 500 pages, and the audiobook was something like 14 or 15 hours long, which is just insane for a romance book. And we reached about the 70% mark when they finally got together, and I was like, oh yay, happy ending. And then I looked at the timing and we still had like 4 hours left, and I was just like, what could possibly happen in the next 4 hours? And it was fine after that, but I had just lost interest, and so that whole last like 30% was just a bit boring to me. And as much as I loved Ryan as a character, and I liked his character development, it was needed. But at the start, he was like this gruff, kind of serious, robot-like character who needs to lighten up a bit and needs to show his soft side to his team, and he very quickly shows that to Indy as well. And I did enjoy seeing the sweet side of him, and all the little things that he does for Indy was so cute. But I felt like his character towards the end was extremely unrealistic. Like, he does a full 180 in terms of his personality. It doesn't even seem like he's the same person as he was at the start. And I felt like some of the things that he was saying to Indy in like the romantic moments at the end completely contradicted what he was saying and also what he was thinking at the start, because we were in his point of view as well. So I don't know, that was just a bit cringy to me, I think. But yeah, overall I would give the first 60% of this 5 stars, but overall 4 stars, because I have to take something away for the fact that it lost my interest for so much of it. Like, it's a good chunk of it that I feel like I was a bit bored by. And I was a bit cringe at some of the spicy scenes in here too. They were fine, but just a little bit cringy. So that is The Right Move. And then after that one was my absolutely favourite book of the month, which was 6 of Crows. And it's a new favourite fantasy. I haven't even read the second one yet to finish off the series, so I feel like I can't say that until I've read both of them. But I loved this so much, and I always expected that I would like it. Like, I enjoyed the Shadow and Bone series, and I knew that that was a series that people had said just to get to 6 of Crows, and so many people loved this. But I just don't think I expected to like it as much as I did, and I loved all of the characters. Love that I get to see them in this beautiful illustrations in this book. If you've seen my most recent reading wrap up, I also read 6 of Crows as part of that, and while I was in the middle of reading this, these beautiful special editions came in the mail, and I had pre-ordered these like months ago, and I just completely forgot that they were coming. So it was literally the best surprise, the fact that they arrived while I think I was about like halfway through the books at that point, and I was already obsessed with them. So it was just the best timing ever. I love that. But if you don't know, in 6 of Crows we are set in the same Grishaverse as Shadow and Bone, but we're set in a different city. In this one we're in Ketterdam, which is kind of like an old Amsterdam inspired city. It's a port city, and they have all the canals, and I'll show you the illustrations on the book, but it has a very similar vibe to Amsterdam, like the buildings right on the canals. And at the start we meet Kaz, who is essentially like, in my vlog I compared him to Tommy Shelby, the guy from Peaky Blinders. He's like the mob boss of one of the underground groups in this world. He owns a gambling parlour, and at the start of the book we learn about this new drug that is affecting the Grisha. It essentially amplifies the Grisha's power, but to a really dangerous level. So it's not only dangerous for them, but it's like insane things that they can do that could just wipe out entire groups of people. Like it'd just be so dangerous if evil people got their hands on this power. But then also it's really dangerous for Grisha because it makes them really weak and exhausted, and they become like a shell of themselves after taking it, and they're addicted and they can't function properly after it. So it's just a dangerous thing that needs to be wiped out from existence. And so Kaz basically puts together this group of 6 crows. The group of 6 crows. The crows are like the part of his like underground group that he leads, and he puts together a group of 6 of them to essentially go on this heist to break into this insane prison and steal the scientist who has created this drug. He has been taken and is in this prison because this group of people are trying to use him to create more of the drug. So the group are essentially both trying to save the world by stealing this scientist, but also become extremely rich because they're getting paid to do this job. And then from there, the 6 of them go on this mission together, and we start to learn each of the characters one by one. We get all of their perspectives, and we learn about their backgrounds. They all have really horrible, sad backgrounds and reasons why they've gotten to where they are to be a part of Kaz's group. Kaz also has a really, really horrible background that was so interesting to learn about. The girls in this, which the girls are on this side, I think, they had some, just horrible things that happened to them. And then you start to get the relationships that they form. They all, by the end of it, become this kind of like found family. And I feel like that's going to get even better in the second book. So I'm so excited for that one. And yeah, I loved the planning of the heist. I really enjoyed the heist itself, although it was a bit stressful at times. And I also really liked the ending. It was pretty epic. I didn't really see the twists coming. And yeah, I'm just excited to see what's going to happen in the last book in the duology. All right, and then after that, I read a very, very different book. I listened to the audiobook for I Don't by Clementine Ford. And this one was a 4-star read. I did enjoy this. I really enjoyed listening to her narrate the book, and hearing her anger and her emotions was really great. I think she was the narrator. I might check that, just one second. Yes, she narrated this herself, and I really did like that. And I liked finally reading a feminist non-fiction book written by an Australian author, just because I read so many last month, and they were all mainly written by American and UK authors. And this one is essentially about the reasons why marriage as an institution is harmful for women. And she gives a lot of detail about specific examples in history, whether or not it's related exactly to marriage. Some things were just examples about feminism in general in our history, and just the reasons why things are the way they are today, but also the reasons why some of the traditions that we enter into when it comes to marriage are harmful, and the history behind those traditions. She talks a lot about religion and the examples of, obviously, the sexism that exists. And obviously a lot of the traditions around what we do in marriage today, even if you're not religious, they still stem from these religious traditions. And so yeah, she talks about how it is harmful for us to be a part of these traditions and the misogyny that had happened in the past. She also talks about the way that we as a society view women who decide not to get married. Like, we call them crazy cat ladies, and they're viewed as like undesirable and unwanted. And it's like there has to be something wrong with her. That's the only reason why she would ever decide not to get married, is because nobody wants her, that kind of thing. I also loved the part where she basically just talks about the history of men making shit up about women and then essentially calling themselves experts. I think that might almost feel like a direct quote from the book. She says something like that at one point, but it's so true, like especially in healthcare. She talks a little bit about healthcare, but from the books that I read last month where they go into a lot of detail, it's just such a frustrating thing. And probably one of the best parts of the book was when she just basically quotes a whole lot of things that men say to women, to either in relation to feminism or just in general, like sexist things that men say to women. And she basically just arms us with information and ways to go back to the man in this conversation. Like, she basically just gives you the best response to say back to them and the best way to put what they said down, which is just so good. She even had a portion of this where it was not related to things that men say, but things that women say when they're talking about why they've made the decisions that they have made to do things under the patriarchy. For example, taking their husband's last name when they're getting married, or things like that. And she basically gives reasoning why all of the things that women say don't make sense. Not that I 100% agree, like there are some traditions that I personally just want to do for myself, but yeah, it was kind of just fun to listen to that part and to hear her point of view on all of the different arguments that people have. She also makes a really good point about the fact that in society in general, men are always the ones who are like making jokes about the fact that they're being forced into marriage by women, and the women are chasing them down to try and get a ring and like to pin them down for marriage. And yeah, they're the ones who are more unwilling to get into marriage, whereas the women are the ones that are chasing them down. But then as soon as a woman says that she never wants to get married, for example, Clementine has personal experience of this because she's decided that she doesn't want to get married, then they're met with this like aggression and anger from men who just can't believe that you wouldn't want to get married to them. And then the whole getting told that they're going to grow up to be a crazy cat lady and that they're going to be undesirable and lonely and unhappy forever, that kind of thing. It's like we can't do anything right sometimes as women. But overall, I think the best and most important takeout of this book, and I think a reason why a lot of women should listen to this audiobook, is just the fact that we can choose whether we want to have a partner or not, or get married or not. And we absolutely just don't need to settle for less than what we deserve, because we're in a society now where we can have these great careers and we can have really fulfilling lives without the need for a partner or a husband. And I just like that message. I feel like it's definitely something that a lot of women out there are realizing, and I just think that's the best point to take out of this one. But yeah, that was I Don't, and I rated this one 4 stars. It was a good time, and I would definitely recommend listening to the audiobook because there were just some funny points. She can be really funny in her like sarcastic humor. But that was the last book that I've finished this month so far. And as I said before, I am currently in the middle of 3 books, but just with the way that this week is going, I am pretty certain I'm not going to finish any of these in the next 2 days. So these are going to all carry over into the month of May, which is fine. But the physical book that I'm currently reading is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, and I am really loving it. I'm on page 264, and I'm vlogging my experience with reading this because I was just so excited to be finally getting into it. I started it last Friday afternoon. It was the start of the long weekend and I had no plans that night, and so I just decided to start vlogging and get started on it because I just had a sudden need to read it. I don't know, and I am really liking it so far. So if you don't know, in Throne of Glass we follow Selena Sardothian, and she is an assassin who at the start of the book is living in slavery in this like icy cave kind of an environment. She's a slave, and it's like a death slavery. Like most people don't last more than a few months. She's been there for a year, so she's doing well in terms of survival. But right at the start of the book, she is led to the prince, who essentially offers her a deal for her freedom. If she competes in this like championship tests situation that he has and wins, then she will serve the king as his champion, essentially his personal assassin, for the next 4 years. And after 4 years, she will receive her freedom. And for her, the fact that she thought she was going to die in this slavery camp, so she takes this offer and she's immediately cleaned up and taken to like the capital, the kingdom where the king lives, which is called Rifthold, and she immediately just starts training for this competition to become the king's champion. And so I'm really enjoying like the court life in this. She is a prisoner at the court, so it's not exactly the same, but I'm liking her kind of getting to know the different people. There's this princess who is also staying at the court, but she is from a different kingdom as well, so she's also kind of like an outsider there, and I'm loving their friendship. There is definitely a bit of a romance happening between her and 1 or 2 guys. I can't tell if it's a love triangle yet or if there's definitely one of them that it's starting to turn a little bit more romancy vibes, but I don't love either of them. The star of the show in this is definitely Selena and just the females. I love Selena and her friend I'm just forgetting her friend's name. Nehemia, I think her name's pronounced. I love both of them. And yeah, she's just a really fun character to be in. I like that she is a badass, and I like that in a lot of, this is a young adult fantasy, by the way. I think I forgot to say that. They're all around the age of like 18, I think. I think Dorian is also 18 or 19 and Cale was early 20s. But yeah, I feel like with a lot of YA fantasy, the female main character starts off as this like weak girl who can't really do anything, and she grows into her power, which is kind of cool to watch. But in this one, she starts off as the assassin of Adalin. Like, she is this well-known assassin who, if people knew that she was that person, people would be frightened of her. But she's at the court in secret, pretending to be Lillian, and nobody knows what the assassin of Adalin looks like. So that whole part of it's really intriguing as well. But yeah, I just like the fact that she is this strong character who is just a badass from the start. It's kind of refreshing. And especially after reading Shatter Me, which is 100% the fragile little girl who learns to embrace her powers, and she does become more of a powerful woman by the end, but it can be a bit tiring to get there. I just like Selena right from the start. And since starting, I've been looking up like fan casting on TikTok and things, and most of the characters that people fan cast I haven't even met yet. So I'm very curious to meet all the characters and just to eventually make my way through the whole series. I'm really, really excited that I'm enjoying this as much as I am, because I feel like a lot of people say that you have to get through the first at least like 3 books. You have to push through to get to the point where you're like obsessed. But I don't think I will have to, because I'm loving it already. And I was a bit worried that I was going to have to push through like so many books to get to the point where I was like really invested. But yeah, I'm enjoying it so far, and I could see this one possibly being a 5-star series in general. I'm very intrigued to see where the magic goes, because also where we're at, there's no magic. Everyone's human. There's been little talk of fae and magic here and there, but not to the point where it actually exists in the world. Like, I think the king outlawed magic or something, so either they're all in hiding or they don't really exist. So I'm excited to see when that actually comes into play in the series. But yeah, that's Throne of Glass, a good one so far. The book that I'm currently reading on my Kindle, it's actually a novella. This is Visions of You by Cowles, and this is number 0.5 of the Lost and Found series, which I have already started. I've already read books 1 and 2 of that series before reading the first novella. And I was looking up online reading orders, and I couldn't find anywhere at what point you're supposed to read this one. But now that I am part way into it, I can tell this has happened before the events of the first one, because the male main character in the first book is in this, and it's before he moves back to the small town that the whole series is about. So I think this one should have been read first, but it's fine. It's following a different character, and I don't mind the fact that I'm reading it now. It doesn't matter too much. So yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. It's a cute little novella. It's also best friend's brother, actually. So in this one we follow West and Lex, and West works with, I'm forgetting his name, but the male main character from the first book. He had like a investigation kind of company before he moved back to the small town in the first book, and West works for that company. So he's like his best mate, essentially, and Lex is West's sister's best friend, and they live in this small town, and Lex has a YouTube channel. She's an artist, like I think she plays the guitar and she sings, and she puts it on YouTube, and she started getting a stalker. This stalker has kind of been leaving comments and things online, but it escalated to the fact that she started receiving letters and things to her door in person. And so West and I forget his name, but the main character, who's the owner of the company, come to the small town to investigate and find out who is this stalker that won't leave her alone. And West is from this small town and they have a lot of history. You can see that she has always been his younger sister's friend that has kind of had a crush on him forever, and he's never let anything happen. But in his point of view, you can tell that he's always kind of had a thing for her, but he just hasn't let himself go there. I am enjoying it. It's very cute. It kind of has it. I feel like the series doesn't, but this one kind of gives very Wattpad-y vibes. Just in like, so it's very short. I think how many pages in am I? I'm only 50 of 110 pages in, but somehow like every fun kind of tension-filled situation that I could think of has happened. Like, there's so much jealousy. She has this male best friend who West is immediately jealous of, and like, I don't know, I can't think of all of the things, but it is very tension-filled, and I'm not saying Wattpad in a bad way. I'm really enjoying it. It's just very fun and not that serious, despite the fact that there is this like stalker situation happening. Yeah, it just feels very cute, and it'll be a very short read and then I'll get back into the main series. So yeah, that's Visions of You, and I'm enjoying that so far. And then the last book that I'm currently in the middle of, I've actually started listening to the audiobook of this one. It's Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I've heard so many good things about this one. Last year people were obsessed with it, and everyone was talking about like the emotional depth in it. So I'm very excited. I'm very early on into the audiobook, so I don't have many thoughts, but so far I'm intrigued by like the science and the talk about astronauts and everything that's going on in this. We kind of, there's this kind of feeling of dread that I get so far, because at the start of the book where we get a chapter from the future where you can tell, I think the whole book is leading up to this mission, and right at the start of the book we get to see a part of the mission where it seems like everything's failing and it looks like everyone on the mission is dying. I think I need to re-listen to that mission before I get to the end, because I can't remember the names of the people who like died right at the start of the book, and then we go back in time and we follow Jean, is that her name? Joan, and we go back to the start where Joan, who is the perspective we're in, she is first applying to get into this astronaut program with NASA, and then we start to meet all of the other people who become the team who go into this mission. And so we're starting to get to know characters and I'm starting to really like them, but I'm like, oh no, who are the ones that are gonna die again? Like, it's a bit stressful. But yeah, I like the talk so far around the fact that Joan is a female astrophysicist, and there's like the mix in this program between the sciencey kind of people and the pilots, and the pilots are all these like gruff men who make like gross jokes, and most of them are pretty sexist. And this is also set in the 80s. I don't know if I mentioned. So yeah, that part of it's pretty interesting. And there's this character called Griff who I already love. He has already defended the women against these pilots, and I also like Vanessa. Anyway, I'm not just gonna list all the things I like. I think I'm like 20% into the audiobook and I'm enjoying it so far. And I literally just, I can't wait to get to the end of this one and to find out what happens in that part that we just heard about right at the start. It's a very intriguing way to start the book, I will say that. And so that is all of the books that I read this month. It's a pretty good stack, and I am excited to keep going with the few that I'm in the middle of as well. So yeah, next month is going to be an interesting month because I have a couple of weeks here at home and then I leave for Europe. And so the last week and a half I'll be in Europe, and then most of June, pretty much all of June, I'll be in Europe as well. I'm over there for 5 weeks. So I'm not sure how I go, if I will be filming a May wrap up, but either way, I will still be getting through a lot of books, and I do want to film a TBR soon because I have big reading plans while I'm over there, because there will be a lot of time when I'm just on flights, sitting at airports, waiting and things like that. So I want to be set with a whole lot of books on my Kindle to just make that time fly by, basically. So that video will be coming sometime next month. And yeah, so thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, then please give it a like and consider subscribing. I'm curious to know what books you read this month, so let me know in the comments. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. I'll see you on my next one. Bye.